I'm going to share a little piece of my own reality with you. This is my own strategy. I call it long-term optimist, short-term pessimist. Long-term optimist, short-term pessimist. I'm generalizing here, but I pretty much don't think anything is going to work that hasn't been tried. That's my approach. When I think up something new and great, or when my team comes up with a great idea, or one of my friends, and they're telling me, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing, and I can see how it's going to work, and people are going to love this, and we're going to make all this money, or we're going to do this project, and we're going to build this piece of software, and we're going to install it in our company, and it's going to go perfectly. I always say, is there a way you can test it? Because it's probably not going to work. Is there a way you can test it? Probably isn't going to work. Why? Because most software projects fail, and most mergers and acquisitions fail, and most everything doesn't work out, and most businesses fail, and most people are mishires. And that's reality. That is the way things ultimately work out. But I don't think that it pays to sit around and say, nothing is ever going to work, because that's not it. When you are smart enough to know when you're getting lucky, and you take those lucky moments and you just grab them and you develop them, then I think you can be a long-term optimist, because overall, you're always making progress. You're always growing. So you might try that on. Be a long-term optimist, but a short-term pessimist. Stop thinking that every new idea is going to work. Start thinking that most of them are not going to work, but the things that are working we need to stick with, because those are our ticket. Those are going to probably keep working, very likely to keep working. In investing, there's a phrase, cut your losses short, let your winners run. Cut your losses short, let your winners run. Smart investors often fail because they buy a stock, it starts going down, and they say, I'm not wrong, I'm too smart to be wrong, and they hold it all the way to the bottom. Good investors say, I made an investment, it's going down, it wasn't a good one, I'm going to get out, thank you very much. Smart investors, when they buy a stock and it starts going up, they think, I better take my profit before it goes down. Good investors buy a stock and it starts going up and they say, that's one that I need to hold on to for the long term. Warren Buffett has a metaphor that he uses that he learned from Ben Graham, one of the greatest investment gurus, and it's the metaphor of Mr. Market. A lot of people look at the stock market and it's this big mysterious thing, and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do, it's so complex, and these people are out to get me. Well, Ben Graham said, no, think of it as one person that you could call Mr. Market. And Mr. Market is a very manic, depressive guy. And Mr. Market will show up every day and give you a huge list of stocks that he's dealing in. And he'll buy them at one price and he'll sell them at another. And you can do whatever you want. You can buy, sell, not sell. By the way, what was he doing when he was creating Mr. Market out of the stock market? Basically projecting that whole system onto an avatar, changing the way that you conceive of it. Another way to become more effective and more efficient personally is to draw distinctions where they're valuable and see new models. I have a concept that I call money making. It's a very original one. I made that up myself. And what I do is draw this pyramid with the capstone disconnected here. I kind of tend to like this symbol for some reason. And I say, okay, this here is money making. And what money making is those things that happen inside your business, actually they tend to happen on the edges or even outside your business, that bring in the money. These are the things that actually get the money to come in, the money-making things. And there are typically very few of them. In our business, the things that are the money-making things are, for example, a page on one of our partners' websites that we've evolved a relationship with them over a few years, and it just runs. It's just up there. And every day, we get 500 new leads that come to our website every day from that. That thing that's interacting with customers out there, and they're coming and then turning into customers that have a high lifetime value, that is what I think of as money-making. Now, what I don't think of as money-making is when someone on our team calls up someone over there and says, hey, let me get you the latest, banner ad to put on the website or whatever. There's a lot of value there, of course, but that's not really the thing that makes the money. The thing that makes the money is the customer doing something. Do you understand the distinction that I'm trying to make here? The money-making is when the customer does something and interacts typically with some system that you've set up. It's not a function of what happens inside the business. Now, people that consider themselves to be employees, and I recommend that you never use that word with your team, strike it from your vocabulary. I use it because it's a word that we all know what it means. But companies that think of their team as employees, those employees typically sit around and say, these guys don't know anything about what's going on. I'm the one that makes all the money around here. I'm the one that does the work. And then I think of this right here as the business. And the purpose of the business is to support, protect, nurture, optimize the money-making stuff. So the money-making is kind of outside of the business itself. It's the stuff that interacts with the customers and gets the customers to take out the money, which are usually systems that have been developed previously. So as an example, let's say you have someone that's an inbound telemarketer working for your company, and they've got a script in front of them, and they've been working for your company for a year. And someone calls in, and they say, hi, would you like to buy some of this stuff? By the way, I'll sell you 2 for the price of 1.5. Would you like that? And they upsell them, and they get done. To that telemarketer, where do they think the money-making is? They think it's them. They really do, in most cases. They really think they are the money-making. But the money-making is actually the ad that you've been testing for 5 years to get the calls coming in. The fact that you've got an office set up with a phone line coming in and the person there and the script in front of them. And then you've got the product in the warehouse and the upsell system and the fulfillment. And then you've got a profit model and a bunch of people managing the business. Is this making sense? The way the money is made is totally different from that. There's a huge disconnect there. So if in your business you talk about the money making being this sacred thing, and it's tough to not almost look like you're worshiping money when you do things like this, so you have to be careful and make that clear. It's weird to say that I don't really think money's that valuable and then to draw something like this, but it's an important distinction. It's a way of looking at things, if that makes sense to you. And if you can figure out what your money-making activities are in your business, what are those things? Most people have never thought of it. They've never separated out that little pile of things that are really the money-making things. And then you focus your energy on that, and you delegate all the rest of the stuff, and you try to get everyone else to focus on this stuff. I think it can be a powerful way to become more efficient and more effective and more productive. Here's something that Deming said. This was just a great little quote. The average American worker has 50 interruptions a day, of which 70% have nothing to do with work. Fascinating. So how does emotional estimation and seeing only validation play into this area? Well, there are a lot of ways here, but one of them is, especially if you're an entrepreneur, following your emotional estimation, following your hunches and your intuition to start a lot of new stuff and to change things constantly. typically made on short-term emotional whim decisions. You literally walk into the office and you go, I've got an idea, let's do this, with no consciousness about how it's going to affect your system. You don't think to yourself, okay, you know what, I know what our projects are, I know what our priorities are, I know what my team is up to, and I know if I interrupt them, I'm probably going to set back that money-making project by 2 to 4 hours, and that's going to cost $800. You don't think like that. You just walk in and go, oh, I've got this new idea. Let's change our ad around over here, or I want to move the logo over there, or I've got a new idea for a product. Everybody come in here and let's have a meeting. And then seeing only validation. Focusing on those things that are short-term successes and missing where your approach is highly inefficient in the long term. And the key here is losing in the big picture. Warren Buffett, he and Charlie Munger, they say that the most important factor to consider when making an investment is, anyone? Most important factor to consider. Any guesses? Strength of the company? What? Exit, vehicle, people, management? Profitability, is it making money? No. Any others? Time? Emotional time? Oh, no emotional tie? What else? Risk of losing? Competitive advantage? Patents? We could be here for a while. Isn't it interesting that as a group we can't figure it out? You might want to write this down. The most successful investor in the history of the planet, the most important factor to consider, opportunity cost. The opportunity cost. In other words, what else could I have been doing with that money? Well, guess what? It's the same for your time, your effort, your energy, your team. It's not about, if I make this investment, what do I get back? It's about, what are the other 7 things that I can't do because I'm going to do this one? So as an example, Warren might say something like this. Okay, we own a bunch of great companies. We also own pieces of a bunch of wonderful businesses. If a new investment opportunity comes along, the first thing I've got to think is, well, should we just buy more of one of the companies that we already own? It's not how good of an investment opportunity this is, but is it better than all the ones we have, and should we just buy some more of this one because we already made a good choice over here? It's not the entrepreneurial way of thinking. Opportunity cost. So we entrepreneurs have Achilles heels, that little weakness that we don't know that just trips us up. And the way I think of it is, we have what you might think of as our strength, our talent that's been evolved and developed and exercised. That becomes our strength. And then we have all that stuff in the world that, you know, we probably shouldn't be doing no matter what, but some things we're okay at and some things we're not that good at. It's this just big world of stuff. Then we have those negative things that are more like a weakness that we should stay out of. But then we have a blind spot. Then we have an Achilles heel. Then we have something that we don't know that we don't know. In fact, it's so far from us and it's so obscured from us that we almost can't be aware of it. And it's up to us to find our Achilles heels. I actually think, by the way, that I'm just starting to develop this idea working with my team at the current level. I think that one of our jobs as leaders of business is to protect other people from their Achilles heels, to see what their weaknesses are and protect them from them. Take our stars and make sure that they don't get tripped up by them, because we all have them. But here are a few that can just get you started. Number 1, doing too many things at once. Spreading yourself too thin. Another one, starting new projects constantly. Always starting things. And number 3, controlling and micromanaging things. These are 3 entrepreneurial Achilles heels that I just see all the time. If you could stop doing those things and start being focused on the money-making, focused blocks of time, I think you could become far more effective. I just think that almost universally. So this is an exercise that I call the productivity pyramid. Looks like this. And this is my take on how to think about the different places and ways that you spend your time. And in the pyramid, the bottom portion of the pyramid is the 0 or negative value area. This is things like worry, idle chatter, distracting others, most news that's being read, and a million other things. Just doesn't have any value, or it has negative value. Next, the low dollar per hour value activities. This is things like busy work, administration, errands, shopping, repetitive tasks. This is the quote-unquote $10 an hour stuff. Next is the high dollar per hour activities. These are things that ring the cash register and bring in sales, kind of in real time. You do them, you make some money. You do them, you make some money. And then at the pinnacle, you have things that are high lifetime value. These are things like building relationships, learning, creating systems, supporting your health, learning and development. I really like learning a lot. That's why I put it in here twice on purpose. No, really. To become more effective, you must identify and become conscious of the activities and time investments you're making throughout your days, and then focus on the highest value activities. The productivity pyramid exercise will help you identify and focus on spending your time doing your highest value activities. Next, we have the entrepreneurial Achilles heel. And here, as entrepreneurs, we typically have common weaknesses, distractions, and what you might call Achilles heels. 3 of these issues are: 1, spreading ourselves too thin and working on too many tasks and projects simultaneously; 2, starting new projects constantly; 3, controlling and micromanaging projects and details that we should delegate. Use this exercise to see what you need to stop and what you need to delegate. So in this one, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the spreading yourself too thin tab, and you're going to write down, okay, where am I spreading myself too thin? And then you're going to say, okay, here's what I need to stop doing. I just need to stop this. That's it. It needs to go away. And here's what I need to delegate. And then you're going to come down to starting too many projects. And then you're going to write down things that are started but not getting done. Does anyone have a project that has been started but it just isn't getting done? Wow, what a coincidence. It's like a miracle. What to stop, what to delegate, and then finally controlling and micromanaging. So, where am I micromanaging something? Where am I paying attention to details and I should be fired from that job, if ever a person should be fired? What do I need to stop, and what do I need to delegate? If it's not that valuable, just stop it. Everything's going to be okay. And if it is valuable, it needs to get done, but you shouldn't be doing it, then you need to delegate it. Do you understand the exercise? Hey, again, you don't have to sit down and write out your whole life's history. You just can write 5 or 7 words. Here's where I'm spread here's where I'm spread too thin. Write it down. Here's what I need to stop. Here's what to delegate. Go through these 2 exercises quickly. If you start here with the productivity pyramid, this is a great focuser. It's a great focusing exercise. Something that calls your attention to the things that are, you just really have to ask a question, huh? It's appropriate. Well, that's a good explanation. Will you run over to the mic so that everyone can hear you? So start with the productivity pyramid and work your way up from the bottom. And ultimately, what you want to do with the productivity pyramid is you want to flip the pyramid on its head. So you're spending the least amount of time doing the 0 or negative value things and the most amount of time doing the high lifetime value activities, building the superstructure, building the support. And then move on to the entrepreneurial Achilles heel, which is a little bit more tactical, and figure out where you're spreading yourself too thin, starting too many projects, and controlling and micromanaging. What's your question?
My question is, like you talk about on the pyramid, like, for example, writing a website, if this is an interface where you're going to generate leads, that's a cash flow thing, so it could be a high dollar thing, but it could also be a system. So where would something like that fall into there?
Well, you know, I hate to use this as a cop-out, but this is a gross generalization. You with me? It's not something where you're going to write these things down and then you're going to have a giant plaque made that you're going to have mounted on the front of your building and you're going to say, that's our mission for the rest of our business, that kind of thing. It really is just to focus your mind. You want to whip this thing out and do it once in a while, maybe even once a month or once a quarter, to just refocus and then put it up and say, okay, now I've got a new set of activities. Because today, that project might be a high dollar value thing that you need to get done, just to get some cash flow coming in. But then you might realize, wow, that thing's going to make us money for a long time, so I need to work more on it, and then it becomes a more lifetime value thing. Something fascinating about time investment. Sometimes projects take a long time to do, and then they have a very short window of result. So you might work on a project for 6 months, and then bam, there's an event, and it makes you a bunch of money. I've heard that in computer development they call this design time and run time. It can take a long time to design something that takes a very short time to run. Well, you have to think about those kinds of things when you're looking this over. So it's not an exact science, it's just to get you focused, okay? So we're going to take a few minutes here, quickly, maybe put 2 or 3 things in each of these boxes in the productivity pyramid, and then quickly fill out your entrepreneurial Achilles heel with just one thing in each box. One thing where you're spreading yourself too thin, one thing where you're starting too many projects, one thing where you're controlling and micromanaging. You understand the exercise? Okay, let's have some silence. Go.